Bangkok felt tremors the other day from an earthquake over in Myanmar, and it got me thinking about just how often can this happen, and what are the chances of more natural disasters affecting Thailand. Now, I'm not claiming by any means to be any kind of expert on this stuff. I was just curious, and after feeling it myself, I did a piece of research and thought I'd share with you what I found, and I hope you find it useful and maybe even a bit interesting. Earthquakes are interesting because Thailand doesn't sit on a major fault line like some other countries, but that doesn't mean it's immune. The north and west of Thailand, places like Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, Mae Hong Son and Kanchanaburi do have active fault lines, and they can experience moderate earthquakes maybe once every 20 to 50 years. Now, Bangkok is built on soft soil, which means when there's a big quake in a neighbouring country like Myanmar, like we saw, we can sometimes feel it here, even though we're miles away. It's rare, but not impossible. Something that maybe happens once every 10 to 20 years if the conditions are just right. Now let's move on to tsunamis. The 2004 tsunami hit Thailand's Andaman coast, and it left a huge mark on the country. Areas like Phuket, Krabi and Phang Nga were devastated. And since then we've had early warning systems put in place, which is great news. But when it comes to big tsunamis, we're talking a probability of once every 100 to 500 years, depending on tectonic movement off the coast of the Sumatra. So extremely rare. But you can never rule it out entirely. Now, flooding, this one is way more common every year during rainy season. Some parts of Thailand deals with flooding, but kind of severe flooding we saw in 2011, which swamped parts of Bangkok. I remember seeing cars parked up on the highways and caused massive disruption. That's a bit less frequent, maybe once every 10 to 30 years. Although with climate change, who knows, we could be seeing that more often. Tropical storms are also worth mentioning in Thailand. Thailand doesn't take direct hits from typhoons like the Philippines, but storms do pass through, especially up in the northeast and down along the upper southern provinces like Surat Thani and Chumpon. You'll get strong winds, heavy rain and flash flooding, and these storms come out through every 5 to 10 years. Then we've got landslides. Now, these are more localized but still dangerous. They usually hit mountain regions during the rainy seasons, places like Chiang Mai, Nan and Tak, and they happen pretty much every year, somewhere in the country, especially when the rains are heavy and the ground gets saturated. Lastly, let's not forget droughts. They're not as common or dramatic as earthquakes or floods, but they're just as disruptive, especially for farming and the water supply. The north and northeast of Thailand are hit the hardest, and you can expect a bad drought every 3 to 7 years, particularly during El Nino years. When you look at it altogether, earthquakes and tsunamis are rare, thankfully, but they do happen, whilst flooding and droughts are far more likely. Hope you found that interesting. Keep safe. Down about Thailand.